Check, check, check. I think that's rolling. Is it rolling? Yeah.
When it's flashing, that means it's recording, though.
Yeah. Yeah, I got it. Sweet.
We good?
Yeah, we are rolling. We have. You want to introduce
a
yourself?
person who used to go to the school has since graduated.
You want to introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah, my name is Json Rangel. I'm an electrical engineering graduate from December 2022. I work for a government contractor, and yeah.
Is there a reason why you want to go into defense, or did it choose you?
It shows. So kind of like what Iman said before, and I'll mention this too after this. It's for this university. We have, I like the term he uses. We have a defense pipeline here. It's just because the amount of, well, one, if you just look at the amount of government contractors, there's just a ton out there. I don't make policies. I don't do policy or anything like that. But if you just look at like the defense spending, it's like absurdly high, which I'm okay with because it pays my paycheck. But you could see there's just a bunch of companies that are government contractors and they just need a bunch of people. It's also just specifically my field, electrical engineering. It's a high demand job. Almost everyone needs electrical engineers. That's just something that is probably never going to go away. Like, I don't even think AI technology will even replace electrical engineering. That's just something that everybody needs. And so I think that's why there's a bunch of defense contractors out there, and there's a bunch of people out of Iowa State going into defense jobs. So the people that primarily that recruit out of Iowa State, you have General Dynamics, which is a defense contractor on the East Coast. You have Boeing. Boeing doesn't just make planes. They also have a Boeing defense division. There's Lockheed Martin. There is Collins Aerospace. There's Honeywell Federal Manufacturing Technology, or Aerospace, actually. There's there's more. There's
BAE.
Yeah, BAE. How can I forget about BAE? But there's a ton out there, and even if you don't think that they do a government contract, like they have a government contract. I was told that even like some like small companies have like a defense division, like or like creating their own defense division, and they're just like a normal IT company, but they're starting their own like defense program.
What do you think the reason for that is?
Defense spending, honestly. There is so much that there's just so much that they can allocate to, and I don't think that's ever going to change because there's always that perception of, and I get it, national security is a very big deal. It is very, very important. We do spend quite a lot on it to maintain, make sure that we have the current technology, make sure that we have the best people out there continually developing our defense infrastructure. I think that's why, and I don't think that's going to change. Just because there are always going to be adversaries out there, and I think the U.S. definitely understands that, and I think people understand that too. Like if you don't have a proper, military, or if you don't have the proper equipment, it would be like you don't want like planes that are just not going to work. You don't want like jets that are just going to spiral out of control. You don't want missiles that are going to miss their target or explode when they're not going to explode, or explode early, or
Yeah,
something.
you want quality going into these things
Yes.
that are going to protect lives, protect countries, or fight for your country or whatever, whether it be controversially fighting for the greater good or the greater evil. It's really just what it boils down to. Boils down to perception, and that's kind of the thing. It's like, before going into defense, I was like, we really do have a high military spending budget, but now I see why. Because like, seeing all the different companies that be like, hey, you got, like you said, you got Boeing, you got Collins, you got BAE, you got Honeywell, you got now you got small IT companies going there. It's like, really, when it comes down to accepting a contract, they're not always going to choose the lowest bid just because, like, always choosing the lowest bidder. It's like you're risking quality a lot. So sometimes paying for the bigger companies like Raytheon that owns Collins isn't the worst idea. So it's like they're a very reputable company. Might as well just give them the money you need for quality products. It's like buying an iPhone compared to like the lowest model of a Samsung. It's like, do you want something that's gonna scrape by, or do you want something that's gonna last you a while? You know, it's like I think that's what it boils down to for military. It's like I don't know when people ask me, it's like, well, what are you doing for work? I'm like, well, have you ever seen the movie War Dogs? Imagine that, but like nerdy stuff, right? Because I'm just gonna be like working on like tech stuff.
What you wouldn't realize, and I gotta make sure I'm careful with how deep I go with this. You wouldn't realize the depth of who is needed and what is like implemented in military technology. Like something as trivial as something that like I'm not gonna get specifics, but like something that you just wouldn't really think of that much. Like that could be a critical component. It could be something that really makes the whole thing go or connects everything together. And it I'm not saying it all the time, but there are some times where it would be like, oh, yeah, that's actually a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big job that I have, or that's a pretty big job that this team has. But like public perception of it would be like, really, that's stupid. And that's the thing. People don't understand. Like the public does not understand. Really, like they like to think that they know. They love to think that they know. They love to think that they're all knowledgeable and the greatest ever, but are completely wrong. So there are people, and even like even what media pushes out. And I'm not going to rag on media. I'm not one of those people. You will encounter those people.
Yeah.
You in the future. There are some people that are just going to be like, oh, well, that's not going to work. Also, that's also pretty. You got to be careful about saying like that's not how it works. Don't say how it works.
Yeah.
like that's a real thing that's a real problem that occurs too. Have you heard of World of Tanks? I think or something.
Yeah.
There's been fortunately not U.S. technology leaked, but like foreign country technology leaked because there's like that's not how it works. This is how it works. I can prove it. Here's the document. Here's the specification. Like, yikes.
Yeah.
Do not do that. So,
Didn't that happen with there's a guy who literally just got thrown in prison probably for life
yeah,
because he was playing some game and people were like, "Oh, you don't have this that clearance or whatever." He's like, "Well, there's a document." Just threw it in Discord. It's like, yeah. Then he just got arrested.
yeah. So so for anybody watching that or listening to this today, we are recording this on Saturday, April 15th, in 2023, and what recently just happened is that there was I think a 21-year-old a 21-year-old guy who was in the Coast Guard or National Guard, I can't remember, reserves, some sort of military organization. And he was on Discord with a bunch of his friends. I think friends. I don't know the full story, so I don't want to try and spread this information. But the whole thing, the gist of it is that he leaked. And this is public knowledge now. Just go look it up. You can find it. He leaked out not the documents. I don't think the documents are public. Don't look up the documents. That's bad. If they are out there. He leaked information about the war in Ukraine and the involvement of the U.S. intelligence, and it was the information was marked as classified or sensitive. Not really going to comment on classified material or sensitive material, but just know that if you leak stuff like that, you will never work another government job again. You will never. There's no way, because you cannot be trusted to handle that information. You can't be trusted to be reliable, and it comes across as you are a threat to the nation, because you are leaking out internal stuff and it could be security stuff too. And people would think, oh, that's like one thing, people just don't use their brains anymore. You would think like, okay, why would you leak that out? And like somebody, and I'm trying to think in the mind of a 21-year-old. I'm no longer 21. That
Was the guy 21 who did it?
I think he was 21. Somebody
They're gonna start making like a age minimum requirement for getting your clearance.
I actually think there is.
Is there?
I don't think anybody under the age of 18 can get a security clearance.
Well, that's. I mean, your frontal lobe's not fully developed until you're 25, at least for guys. So it's like, I'm not saying I would fall into this category, but it's like there's still like a lot of people who get, that's 7 years. You could just like go off the rails and lose it, and then boom, I don't know. I just feel like 18 is still a very low requirement. It's like, though I'm happy I'm getting the job I'm getting, but at the same time, it's like that's a lot of trust you're putting into people who haven't fully like developed their like full brain yet.
And I will second on that. Like when I can speak from personal experience. When I was 18, I was not mature enough to hold any sort of serious job, and I'm glad I never did hold a serious job. I think when I was 18, I may have, and I actually know it happened later on. I worked a job in dining. Like, okay, that's a low risk job. Nobody's really gonna get killed unless you throw oil on somebody. But if you were to throw oil on somebody, there's something deeper rooted, and there are deeper rooted issues in that. So I agree with that. Like, I think there should be some sort of like minimum to grant those types, and I get it can also scale too, because there are different types of clearances. Again, public knowledge, I can share that. But I'm not going to say exactly what the security clearances are, because go look it up. I don't want to be the one who's accidentally saying something I shouldn't be saying. I guess what you could do is that you could scale those, like the lower risk security clearances. Somebody the ages of 18 to 21 can get this, and maybe that's what they do with interns and co-ops, because defense contractors have interns and co-ops. Collins has their interns. I think General Dynamics has interns. Lockheed, I think, has interns. I think all those companies, the big ones, have interns and co-ops. And one, you have to vet those individuals. You have to make sure that if they are going to be working on sensitive information or sensitive technology, you got to make sure that they're reliable. And the process, the clearance process, can take quite a long time. It can take as anywhere as close as like 1 month to 2.5 years. It just depends on the background. It just depends also just the amount of people that they're investigating, because you do get investigated when you apply for security clearance. Like you have somebody go talk to you, you have somebody like full on interview you, and it's an actual agent. So like whether it be FBI or whether it be a contractor to Defense Counterintelligence, they will flash their badge when they greet you, just to make sure that you know that they're a legitimate person. It's not as scary. Well, I mean, at least my investigation, my interview wasn't scary, because the guy was like pretty chill about things, and just they're there just to get information. They're not there to judge. They're not there to say, oh, you shouldn't be applying for this job, or oh yeah, you're clean and all this other stuff. They might call you boring, not me. I did not have a boring life, I'll tell you that much. But one of my coworkers, he got told, because he got his clearance, and I'm not gonna say what level of clearance, but he got his clearance right when he started the job, and he told me that like my investigator called me and said like nothing really to see here. You got a pretty boring life. So, I mean, the more power to you. If you have a boring life and you're reliable,
be reliable and trustworthy.
Yeah, you can do it. You can get a clearance. You can obtain a clearance.
So I guess one thing I always thought about before is like, I have all these friends. It's like, I guess a good thing that was said, well, a very truthful thing that was said to me yesterday was like, coming out of Iowa State, you are frequently to find yourself, well, at least if you're like software, EE, CPR, ECPe, whatever, you're working in ag or you're working in defense.
So I was actually glad that you mentioned the ag and defense, because I've had conversations about this with other students my final semester of college. I was in an industrial design course. You just understand why that took me a long time to say that. That talked about a lot of things regarding design and engineering. Like it was industrial design, so it was like an industrial design course. You had industrial designers taking it, but it kind of like it combined industrial design with engineering. So like it was like, why do engineers suck at design? Because engineers can claim, and students will claim, ask anybody in your department, anybody will be like, how well do you design? Oh yeah, I'm really good at designing. But then you actually get them to doing it, like, you see that their designs suck, and like they do not do well designing. So that was just a long tangent. But the point of it was, we were talking about it. We were talking about the jobs out there, and I was talking with another individual who is interested in the arts. So, like, full disclosure, I purposely chose electrical engineering based off of my background in audio and visual. I wanted to do that stuff, but I didn't want to do audio engineering because audio engineering was specific to certain schools. It was expensive, and it was only like 2 years. I wanted to be the ones like designing the lights, designing the audio equipment, like, and then putting it all together and designing shows or designing theaters. So that's what I wanted to do. And this other student kind of had the same thing. And I've actually noticed too, I've been talking with more people, that that's kind of a common thing. Like, more and more people are wanting to do engineering for the arts. You come to Iowa State, and as great of a school Iowa State is, and people can rag on Iowa State all they want. It's a very, very good school.
It's a great school for the cost because it's like in-state. I don't think tuition's more than $12K a year. So it's like when you put that into like an aspect ratio with like Carnegie Mellon, MIT, Harvard, Yale, whatever. If you look at the cost to value ratio, it is probably the best bang for your buck for engineering schools in the entire country. If you're in state, but out of state, 20 grand a year. But it's like, what, Harvard, MIT is like 50 grand a year. But we're still, like, with our cyber program and just basic engineering program, we're still in like the top 20 for the entire nation. So it's like, if you think about that and think about really how cheap that 20 grand is compared to Ivy League schools, I don't think Iowa State's really that bad of a school. It's the only thing that frustrates me is the computer science department and software engineering department. That's all I've got to say. Computer engineering, though, fantastic professors. I have not had a single bad computer engineering professor. I don't know how they find these people, but it's like I have never met people who like their job more than these people. Like, hey, props to you. I love them, honestly.
And I will shill for the ECPe department, not because I was closely involved with the department, but I actually do. And maybe because I was closely involved with the department, I got to see the inner workings, and I got to understand the people behind the program and behind the department. You're right. Our department, the electrical and computer engineering department, is a department filled with passionate individuals who want students to succeed. Again, there's always going to be somebody that's going to be like, well, that guy's a dirty liar. Like, this guy wanted to fail me. This guy gave me like mental health issues. I've looked at the Reddit. I've looked at the subreddit. Those people do exist. You get those people, but on the like really on a deep down level, everybody in that department wants people to succeed. It's an excellent department for the value, and you mentioned the value context. I'm from Illinois, the state of Illinois. So the two schools I was looking at was Iowa State. I've been looking at Iowa State for a while, and then the University of Illinois. The University of Illinois.
Was that Urbana-Champaign?
Yep, Urbana-Champaign. Okay. So, and I looked at because I had a sibling there at the time who was not in ECPe but in a different major. Sometimes I'd go down and see them, and I saw their electrical and computer engineering building. That is a state-of-the-art building. I will give their building a lot nicer than ours, a lot nicer than Coover Hall, but still, Coover Hall is the GOAT. It's a special place to me because you spend so many engineering hours and mental breakdowns in there. AutoCam can't see this, but he's laughing at this.
Yeah, it's a very true statement. I don't know if I told you. Are you familiar with like a lot of the computer engineering courses or computer science or anything like that?
Computer science a little bit because a lot of I'll rag on electrical engineers a bit. As much as I love electrical engineering, I think electrical engineering produces some of the majors are some of the most awkward and you never really see them, but you always see like the software engineering people, the computer engineering people, and cyber engineering. But the electrical engineering, and I don't know, maybe it's because of the difficulty of the program, they're just like non-existent. You don't see them outside ever. There are a few that are really good. I would name drop, but I don't know if they'd want me to drop their name publicly. So, but there are individuals like that. Sorry, that was just a tangent. But anyway, yeah, like there's the computer engineering courses are brutal. Specifically 381, I've heard that's a problematic one.
Yeah.
A lot of people struggle with 288. There's 488, which is embedded systems too. Dr. Jones, your previous guest, he had basically told our entire class in 288. He said, like, yeah, if you want to spend your life in the lab, take 488. So he was transparent about that.
Oh yeah. The thing I like about Dr. Jones is he will just tell you how it is. And I love blunt honesty. Like, I've always been a person who, like, tell me how it is. I don't want fluff. I don't care if it's something undesirable. Just tell me how it is, right? I wish someone told me that going into 381, like, this will be the worst time of your life. Because I was taking ComS 309, which is like a software development project class. You're like, hey, you're going to design a web application this entire semester, front end and back end. And I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. But so I got through that. So I was taking 381, 309, arguably some of the harder classes in the CPRE program or SE, whatever. I'm a PsyB, but it's just like a crossbreed between all these different majors and stuff. So I was taking that, and I was taking 231, ethical hacking. Love that class. TA4 now. If you have the opportunity to take it, and you are, I don't know if it's selective anymore. I don't know, because my employer was like, I'm so tired of these SE kids coming in here and not caring about the class. So I think she talked to like the advisors and stuff, like, SE kids no longer allowed in here. It's it's like, for the people who do have passion in cyber, I think they should have the opportunity to go and get the opportunity to do some of those classes. Because like 230, you get to, hey, here's 8 VMs, we're gonna set up a firewall, all the rules, and like the Active Directory, well, LDAP, the Linux version Active Directory and stuff like that. So that was cool. And then ethical hacking, it's like, now you get to do the fun stuff. The stuff that you're like, oh yeah, I'm a script kiddie or whatever. It's like you're messing with Metasploit. Do you know what Metasploit is?
I know nothing about really software or cyber in general. But when you talk about ethical hacking, though, I've heard from the course from another cyber engineering student that they personally didn't like. There are 2 cyber engineering students from Iowa State. I think they're still students there. I used to talk with them quite a bit and stuff, and I don't think they liked the course because what was the course number for that? What was the course number?
231.
I think that was the one where they're like it doesn't really teach you anything about ethical hacking. Then again, I don't know. I've never taken the course or anything like that.
Well, so yes and no. So my biggest complaint with it was that, and this is just because the program's so new, it's like you can't expect. I was like, I'm one of the like actual first people to enroll into Iowa State, being like, yes, I'm a cybersecurity engineer. This is the first year it was offered. I am one of the first people that get to go through this entire curriculum. So yeah, there's gonna be bumps in the road. It's like when a new class is presented into a university, it's an experimental course for the first 3 terms. At least that's how it is here at Iowa State, right? So the people who are complaining about the cyber program, it's like, I get it. But at the same time, also working currently for one of the people who made the curriculum over the last 7 years and worked hard, and I know the effort they went through to get through everything, all the virtual machine images, all the servers hosted for the students. I mean, they're hosting hundreds of machines on these servers, and it works flawlessly. So that amount of work and effort, it's like, I have nothing but respect for the people who did pioneer the cyber program here. It's like, sure, it's not the greatest cyber program in the world, but it's still something that's coming out in a new fashion for one of the loosely rough term there, but state-of-the-art engineering schools in the nation.
It's also important to note that I believe cybersecurity engineering started here at Iowa State. I think in 2019 it was the first year. If it wasn't 2019, it was 2018. So then you have all this new stuff and infrastructure that they have to go through and figure out how to do this. And then COVID happens. So like it really got tested. It got tested to a great extent, and just the whole university in general. In the engineering program, technology-wise, they did a pretty good job. Process-wise, could have done better. But technology-wise, they were able to support a bunch of students remoting into campus. The VPN still worked. I don't recall myself ever getting disconnected from the VPN or from a remote session. It might have been slow, but that's because it was new. We have 30,000 students trying to remote into Iowa State servers, and like it's just going to eat up all the resources. That's just what's going to happen. So props to the university for doing that, for being able to make that happen, and just also for cybersecurity, because I don't think it was accredited the first year it was available. It's now accredited, but that's just a product of it just takes time, and you see the enrollment going up too, because those enrollment statistics are publicly available on Iowa State Registrar. You can look at enrollment by major and a bunch of other stats.
Yeah, this is with any college, by the way, even community colleges and stuff. I think that's the coolest thing, like getting to see like it even shows you like the retention rates. It shows you dropout rates, the stuff like that. So it's like you can figure out how hard is this major or curriculum based on how many people are dropping out. What I find interesting is like how many people do you think drops like any of the engineering courses? Like, what do you think the percent is?
That's a really good question. Wow. Well, that's a really tough question, because you get the whole, like, you've heard of the adage, the whole like normal, like when you first engineering class, professor walks up to the front of the room and says, "Everybody, look to your left, look to your right. One of you will not be an engineer," or something like that. That isn't really the case. Well, one, I never experienced that here at Iowa State during my 5+ years of being in school here. But so the biggest drop you see is from freshman to sophomore year. Actually, just the first semester. I used to be honorary peer mentor, because I wasn't actually like, I had a weird like dynamic with the peer mentors. So I wasn't officially like a peer mentor, but I worked with the peer mentors a lot. In order to be a peer mentor at Iowa State, is doubly electrical engineering peer mentor, you have to go through the introductory class, which is 185, and then you have to be selected by the current peer mentors to be a peer mentor. I wasn't one of those because I was a dropout after my first semester. But they took me on later on, like my last year of college, because, quote, I had a different perspective on things than the current peer mentors did. So they brought me on, and you get to see really like how many students switch out of engineering, and not just like electrical engineering in general. And it's interesting too, because you can't blame the students for that, because some will come in and be like, well, I thought engineering was more hands-on, so they switch over to industrial technology, or like, hey, I really like this aspect of engineering better than this one, so I'm going to go to physics. Or I like what's another like I really like coding. I really like coding, so I'm going to go into computer engineering, or vice versa. You have computer engineers switch over to electrical engineering. I really like hardware, not as much coding. I'm going to go into electrical engineering. Or I despise hardware. I'm going to go to software. You get to see the nice thing about our department is there's a ton of availability to move laterally, which is lateral moves. Get used to it. Get accustomed to it, because that's something that happens in industry. I'm not saying students should just go laterally moving majors all the time, because that just actually absolutely destroys the point of college. If you laterally move different majors all the time, you're going to be here for 8 years just trying to complete your bachelor's degree. So I don't recommend it, but like laterally move early on if it's not your thing. And with college, really, I'll transition into college. With college, people, specifically freshmen, and I'm guilty of it too. I was guilty of this mindset. You come to college thinking that, oh, I did well in high school. I'll do just fine in college. So many people are not prepared for college, and I think it was what Dr. Jones is the one who said, like, college. You go to college, the first thing you have to do is you have to learn how to learn, and he's right. You have to learn how to learn, and college really isn't so much about the material. It's all about learning about yourself, your limits, what you are able to do, what you like, because for most people, college is the first time that they're out and about on their own. They're learning how to live adult life. So you don't just learn how to like do statics and dynamics and learn how to do Kirchhoff's voltage laws. You have to learn, okay, how do I manage my time? How do I manage my money? how much sleep should I get today? Like, I need to take care of myself. I need to go to the gym. So it's a whole aspect of learning how to live, it's just learning how to, really the whole thing, it really just boils down to learning how to learn. You learn how to learn material, you learn how to learn daily routines, you learn how to learn about yourself, because, you don't really think about it. It's become very apparent now after COVID that people just don't really think about themselves. It's pretty unfortunate too, because the whole COVID killed education. There's a stark gap, and I was working on research with this with other people in the department. We were analyzing the effects of COVID on engineering education before, during, and after, and it wasn't the most scientific because we've kind of put it on pause. Don't take our idea. We're going to work on it again. You get to see it's actually depressing. It's actually extremely depressing seeing what happened. And I got to see this firsthand because I worked with students post-COVID. And one, there's just a severe lack of attention. There's a severe lack of care. There's a lot of expected hand-holding. So students expect to have their hand held through engineering, through college, because that's what they know. That's what happened within our high school. I think high school education did a really bad job with COVID because they were just, I'm not going to call it laziness because I don't know if it was laziness, but there was a lot of just, oh, okay, we're just going to cancel. This has actually happened. I've heard about this. We're just going to cancel assignments and just give everybody an A or pass everybody. That's actually happened. It's terrible. But there's also there was a failure to mitigate cheating. And while I am a full proponent and supporter of collaborative working, and you've probably experienced this in senior design already, works to an extent because you can have people just mooching on the other people. If you have one strong link that doesn't understand how to either say no to something, like to giving out answers, or just struggles to help other students, you get this lopsided team. And with the high school education, with the freshmen coming in, it did feel that way, where one of the most upsetting things we heard from a student was they didn't really ask. So they were in lecture, they were given lecture notes, they were given written out solutions. Their question to the professor was, what Khan Academy video do you suggest I watch for this? Or what YouTube video, or how I don't remember the exact extent of the question, but it was really like I don't want to listen to you teach. I want to listen to a video that could teach me. And to an extent, that's a fair thought. I mean, everybody should have some sort of outlet to learn the way they should, the way they can. But I think it also should be used as a supplement. Unless the professor is really, really bad, where they're not conveying any information at all, where you have to actually teach yourself like externally. But there were a ton. This class 185 gives you so many resources to succeed.
This was 185?
185, yeah.
I could understand if this was like a higher level course where it's like...
No, this is 185 where you're learning the basics. And this is really, really sad too. We noticed, so the way the class works, the first assignment, at least when I was in 185, the first whole week of it was just watching music videos, watching Freddie Mercury perform, watching Steven Tyler of Aerosmith perform, Leonard Cohen perform. And it was all about crafting the art of what they do. So it was trying to convey crafting the art of what you do, craft the art of engineering, what you're doing. And the first assignment that you're given is an in-class assignment. Question is, who are you and what do you want to get out of this program? And I mean, people can answer that. When I was a freshman in 2016, we could answer that. But you look at it now, nobody can answer that. Nobody can answer that. Who are you? What do you want to get out of engineering? And we would try to solve this issue too, like try to figure out from the students, because 185, that electrical engineering 185, that class is centered around the students. It's all about trying to get the students to succeed, to think critically, to think differently, to go further and be curious and really, really be passionate about what they're doing. So we would have roundtables because this was the one thing we had to solve. We had to solve the community issue. Nobody wanted to work with each other. Nobody wanted to talk to each other. Everybody just wanted to do the bare minimum and go and I don't know, go play Apex or something. They just were not focused. And so we roundtabled them in labs, got in a group. We would just cancel the lab that we were doing and just say, we're going to go around the room, get to know each other, and just talk about what do you want in engineering. A lot of them were just like, so you know, like, Ryan, what do you want in engineering? I want to money. So like everybody was doing it just for the money and not for really the pursuit of actually learning a new skill to apply to somewhere. And I get it. We live in a capitalist country. Money is very, very important.
This is true. So I actually would like to answer this question. You know, it's like, what do I want out of engineering? It's like, one, as masochist as this may sound, or sadist or whatever, I like being frustrated with a problem that I can't solve because the gratification of solving that problem is out of this world. There is no feeling like it. Like, I remember like my first coding class, not 185, but like 227, and dealing with the assignments and stuff. It's like, once it's done, you're just like in bliss, sitting in your chair, like, it's done. 16 hours is done. But it's challenging yourself and learning, like Dr. Jones said, learning how to learn. How do you learn best? How do you accomplish stuff the most efficient way? That's what college is. And the best quote I've heard of all time, this is from Tulsa King. I think this is from Sylvester Stallone in that TV show. College has one purpose. On paper, it shows a company that you did at least the bare minimum, showed up on time to a place, and did what you were told. That's the purpose of college. Of course, there's extra stuff you can get out of it, networking. As dumb as I may seem sometimes, I feel like my best thing I'm capable of, surprisingly, because I used to be like super shy as a kid, but networking with people. Like, I'm going up to professors and be like, hey, do you want to be on my podcast? Like, I'm talking to the people that have made the cyber curriculum here. I'm like, hey, I'd love to do a podcast with you guys because, one, I'm a cyber student and I've taken a lot of your classes, but I think it's very interesting on figuring out why people want to do what they do or why they did what they did and what gratification they get out of it and just sharing their story. Like, that's why I have you on today. I think it's awesome that you're an electrical engineer for a company that I'm not going to disclose because you didn't disclose it. So it's just like, I like meeting impressive people and making a network relationship with them because you never know where life can take you. So it's like with this podcast, it's like, you know, I've had a band, the Home Team, on. They have over 300,000 monthly listeners. And it was just the simple fact of me asking their vocalist, who I listened to for years, hey, do you want to be on a podcast? He's like, oh, yeah, I'd love to. I'm like, well, one, I'm a nobody from Iowa, right? I'm a flyover state guy, right? So it's like, seeing that people want to give time and attention to just as somebody who's doing something cool, I respect that. You know, like, even if these bands aren't making millions of dollars a year, because not every band can. That's just so unrealistic for people to think about. And I remember back when I was in high school, I'm like, oh, I don't want to go to college. I want to be in a rock band. I want to be the next Motley Crue or whatever and tour and da-da-da-da-da. And I remember, I've said this story so many times on the podcast, but I don't think you've heard it. There was a college fair my mom took me to. She's like, well, you need to figure out where you're going to college. Because in high school, I had like a 3.85 GPA, whatever, taking honors classes, dual credit college courses, coding and stuff. And at that time, I'm like, I'm just doing the bare minimum so you don't whoop me when I get home, man. You know what I mean? And all I want to do is play guitar. And I played guitar every day when I got home from classes and stuff or work or whatever. And she's like, hey, we're going to this college fair. I'm like, I just want to go learn how to play guitar and just be a rock star or whatever. And we go to this college fair, and I'm like, so what's your music curriculum? Do you guys teach theory? They teach theory. I'm like, nope, next. It's like, I just want to play guitar. It's like, I wanted to go to like a technical university where it's just what you want to learn. And then, but the problem with this is that you become the master of one, the jack of none, right? So that's the kind of nice thing about university, because you learn so much that if you realize you don't like what you do, it's not you screwing yourself over. Because, like, as a cyber, I'm going into software, right? Which is very interesting, though it's more cyber related just from the position. But it's very interesting that just how mindsets change over time. Like, I remember being at this college fair, like, I was just like turning every college out, and my mom was very unhappy with me. She was like, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you, yo. But from not wanting to go to college to being appreciative of the fact that I did go to college now, it shows you that 18 or 17-year-olds shouldn't be trusted with anything in life. They don't know what's going on. This is also entirely dependent on the person. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But I've met a lot of 18-year-olds who think they know a lot, and then like 4 or 5 years later, they're like, I knew nothing, which is very interesting.
And I'd like to comment on that because I will share my college journey because I was that person. I was that dickwad asshole who was like, oh, I graduated with a 4.18 GPA in high school. I was in the top whatever percent of my class and stuff like that. Like can I swear on here? I was like, fuck all
Yeah,
you
you're
guys.
good.
Like I'm gonna be doing my shit. And boy, it is the most one of the most humbling experiences is my first class. One, I overslept my first class. It was a music class. So I went to my 10 a.m. and I'm thinking, oh, I'm this smart guy. But like so Alex, did you have to take the Alex assessment? I don't know.
No, so I went to community college first. I took Calc 1
Okay.
through 3 there, so I
Yeah.
didn't have to take that.
I was a direct entry from high school, and I was like 2 points off from getting into Calc 1. So I got placed in pre-calc, which does not apply to my degree program. So that was like, crap. And then I get to my first engineering course, electrical engineering 185, W185. I go there, and like we're talking because people actually talked with each other back then. I'm talking with my neighbors, and they're like, oh yeah, I'm in Calc 3. Okay, so it was like I became one of like the smartest individuals, and now I'm like one of the dumbest. So that was like one of the most humbling things. Also to the point where you deal with your own life issues because you're struggling to like just comprehend everything that's going on. To the point where I actually dropped out after my first semester. I was a dropout, but I knew I was going to come back. But I was severely questioning whether I could do engineering or not. I thought about switching over to music because I was pretty good at music in high school and I had a pretty good music mindset. I ended up coming back though in the fall of 2017. So fall 16 was my first semester, and then I was dropout. Took courses at reluctantly took courses at community. That was one of the unhappiest I've ever been, because it was an ego thing, and I had to fix my ego, because I was just like, oh shit, I'm one of the low life community college individuals, like, because that's why I had to be humbled. I had not been humbled yet, but I'm thankful for the mindset that I have now, because back then I've always said that, like, if I could go back in time, I would kick that guy in the balls. I would absolutely destroy you, because like you have to get out of that mindset. That is stupid. You're a piece of shit. I beat some sense into you essentially. So,
Yeah.
and I can say that just because of myself. I wouldn't do it to anybody else, but understand that, audience.
But it's also something that you have to keep in mind too. It's like if you have, like, just unless you're like one of the greats of all time, like let's say Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, Elon Musk, whatever, whether or not they may be controversial, they are damn well good at what they do, because they're there for a reason. They made what they made for a reason, whether or not maybe the most ethical reason, they still figured it out to be one of the multi-billionaires of the world, which is very rare. And sure, it's like, you can make the argument like, oh, well, you have to exploit people to get that rich. It's like, well, you have to make people exploitable first, because not everyone's just gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna work for you for free. That's not how it works. But it's having that charisma and stuff, or at least that personality to where people want to work for you, or have the purpose of people wanting to work for you. That's what they figured out. I think Bill Gates at one point, just when he was starting Microsoft, he sent out thousands of emails. He's like, hey, I'm starting up this venture. If you want to figure out more about it, we're going to meet at this time, this place, whatever. And only a couple hundred people replied out of the thousands he emailed. And that's really what it boils down to. It's like if you have an idea and you want to try and find people to help you with it, just go with this. Like with this podcast, it's like I haven't had every guest I've asked on. I haven't been replied to more than 50% of the time. I haven't been told yes more than 25% of the time. So it's like, but that doesn't kill what I'm doing, right? It's like I am like, okay, next, cool, have fun. You know, it's like I'm not gonna pester them about it because there's always people that will want to support what you're doing, which is really something that you got to keep in mind in life. I think with anything.
And I want to add in there too, because I was guilty of this. A lot of students, I'm not going to say most. Actually, I would say most. I'd say most students that go into college have never failed in their life before.
This is true. I will 100% back that statement.
Learning how to fail is an extremely useful skill that, like, you would think, because everybody's afraid of failure. We're afraid that failure is just human nature, and also just those three numbers that go on your transcript. Like everybody's just like, I can't get lower than an A-. I got to get this 3.8. Like you get that mindset. And then when somebody fails, they're like crushed. They are absolutely crushed. They just think like, oh my gosh, I suck. How do I do this? I'm not going to be like, they just get in the whole cyclical mindset of negativity. But they don't know how to use that to become to a positive atmosphere, to positive aspect. Myself, I'm the living embodiment of failure. I have failed so many times in life, in college. Like I said, I was a 2-time dropout. I dropped out of Iowa State twice.
Really?
I dropped out of Iowa State twice, yeah.
When was the second time?
Second time was technically I've been out of the university for 3 semesters out of the 10-ish or more semesters. I don't know how long. I don't know. I never really. I think I did spend like 5 years, 5 total, 5 years, so 10 semesters. I think at Iowa State, like that. I think I actually have. Anyway, so spring 17, so directly after my first semester of college, and then would have been spring 20. So I missed out on the pass fail because I had dropped out before then because I had just been really stressed out from the job that I was working at the time. I was stressed out from my own personal life situation. I was really questioning if I was going to be able to be an engineer. I was just extremely demotivated. I had a ton of apathy. It was bad. It was probably like the worst like mindset. It wasn't the unhappiest I'd been, but it was the worst mindset I had been in. It was the most dangerous mindset I've been, because what I was doing, I stopped caring about classes, and I was just like, I want to just work all the time, my crappy dining job that paid really, really well, to try and make as much money as possible. And I was going to make a movie. I was going to make a musical, unfortunately, is the technical term for it, because even though it's a bunch of music videos storied together into one cohesive long-form art, technically it's a musical film, so technically it's a musical. But that was my idea. I had an idea, and I've wanted to do that since 2017. I wanted to create music videos, create music, because I was an artist at one point, and put those all together to form a whole storyline. And I was going to travel to do it. I traveled to do it, actually. Yeah, I traveled to Florida to go do that. I traveled to England to go do that. St. Louis, Wisconsin. I traveled a bunch of places to put footage together to get something to do. And what happened was I was so disillusioned with school that I had dropped down to 281, 40, so 4 credits. I went from, I don't remember how many credits I had started out with. I dropped 3 courses that semester. I went down to 4. And the only reason why I dropped down to 4 credits is because technically I needed to be enrolled in school to still work my job. So even if it's just 1 credit, I just needed to be enrolled. So that was the whole reason why I didn't drop, because I would have dropped out that semester. Retroactively, I took an out-of-term withdrawal afterwards that got approved because they were just like, wow, like, yeah, this your life circumstances and everything going on that during that time accounted for a retroactive withdrawal. It used to be called a retroactive withdrawal. It's now called an out of term. So technically, I have 3 semesters that are technically dropout semesters. But like physically been away from the university 2 times. What ended up happening though is that I sucked for like 3 years. I was a terrible student, terrible, I was garbage student. But what happened was that I needed to take that time away to really figure out what went wrong, what has been going wrong, why, just to figure out the why. And it got to the point, so when I was out of school that spring 20 semester, obviously COVID happened. And when COVID happened it's an unfortunate thing to say, but it was a blessing in disguise because it got me focused on, well, one, I couldn't work on what I was working on anymore because I couldn't travel. I couldn't do any of that. And I was away from my instruments at the time because I got locked down in Illinois because when I went back home to Illinois, that's when the state locked down. And I was living at the time with a healthcare worker. And so I did not want to come back until I knew for sure that it was safe because, I didn't want to potentially bring COVID back to my roommates in Ames. So I stayed in Illinois for a while, and it was really like, all right, now I'm out of school. I don't have a job. I'm just staying with my parents, and I'm doing absolutely nothing. And there's nothing I can do because what was there to do during COVID other than just, play video games? This is going to sound really dumb, but I got bored. And so what I did do when I got bored, I enrolled in a class in the summer. I enrolled in a class, and for the first time in my life, I was actually motivated to do well. I ended up getting an A in that course, online summer course. Got an A, and so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go back to school. So I came back to school, didn't do so hot right when I returned because it was just an adjustment period for me. But after that, did fantastic. Fantastic compared to what I had been before. Fantastic compared to a summa cum laude student. No, I'd still be trash compared to summa cum laude student. But you think about and so when I said earlier that I'm the product of failure, I literally am the product of failure because I was a 2-time dropout. I did not care about school, was able to turn my life around, and be in the position I'm in now. So when later on, I ended up being president of IEEE, the main student organization in our department. I was able to organize more things for myself and for the department in general. I was able to innovate at Iowa State because I actually did do some stuff. We don't talk about TLA prom, and I ended up getting a good job, a job with a reputable company. It is a reputable. I'll just say it's Honeywell. So I work for Honeywell now, and when I say I am the product of failure, I am that whole what's it, the hero arc, what is it, character arc? I went through a whole character arc because I'm completely different than the person that I was 6 years ago. I'm more mature. I'm more understanding of things. I know how to resolve issues. I know, before I was at, failure, we cannot fail. You cannot fail as a person. Where now I'm like, I encourage people to fail. Like when you're in college, fail when you can. Because later on in life, you don't really get that luxury, especially if you're working in defense. If you're working in defense,
you mess up once you're done, dude.
No, there's a reason why there's big teams, and because to help you not fail, or if you do fail, help you figure out how it works. But as an individual level right now at college, you need to learn how to fail because you need to learn how to pick yourself back up and really get things going, get the ball rolling again, become a better version of yourself. And that's why I had that mindset of always, I always say, I used to have that perfect mindset. Perfection is what we need to be driving for. Now, I think if you drive for perfection, you are stupid. Because once you hit perfection, what is there left to do? I am of the mindset of continuously improving. Be a better version of yourself every single day. You're not always going to be the better version. You're gonna slip up. That happens. But always make an effort to be a better version of yourself than you were before. Don't strive for perfection because once you get perfection, what's there left to do? There's not a goal for you to chase. There's no lead dog or anything like that. And it's not really a competition either between somebody else. You should be competing with yourself. Compete with yourself to look back and okay, yeah, I did this better than I did the last time. And even when it comes to depression too, because I have depression, and I was so people had asked me before, how did you do it? How did you get through it? And it takes a while to do this, especially if you have depression. it takes a while to get that mindset of, well, instead of just thinking, oh my God, everything sucks, I'm never going to get better. It's more about, or like, I need to just win. It was all about every single day, win that day. You can slip up, but the whole goal of it was to win more days than the year before, win more days than last week. So like, okay, yeah, like I had a pretty down day. Well, okay, get back off and do better the next day. So those first 3 years, I was like heavily depressed, highly depressed. And then like the later 2 years when I actually graduated, it was that mindset of like, okay, I've realized that I'm winning more days, winning more nights than I was 3 years ago. Whereas like, oh, every day sucked. Try to win more days. And it's the terminology I use. It's to win more days. Because every day, when you have depression, every day is a battle. Every day can be a battle. And you have to fight that battle and you have to win that battle. But you're not going to win every single battle. Sometimes it's a lifelong war, which really sucks. But if you just understand that, I'm going to slip up. I'm going to mess up. I'm going to have bad days. But make sure that I have better days than I did before. And it's the whole continuous improvement. I believe in the self, working on the self, improving the self, because it really helped me. Understanding myself and understanding how to improve myself is what really got me to improve and really be successful in the way that I am now. And it's so much so that I actually asked my manager. I asked him, "Hey, why did you hire me?" People would say like, that's a dumb question to ask. Actually, Iman had told me to ask it. And then when I told him he asked me, he's like, what the fuck? Why would you ask that? Because, Iman's being Iman.
Yeah, Ivan just is a big old goofball, but I love him.
So I asked my manager, like, why did you hire me? And he said, plainly simple, he's like, because my GPA is garbage. My GPA is really bad, my final GPA. But like the GPA of my semesters ending college were actually pretty good. It's just those slip-ups, those first 2.5 years, 2.5, 3 years, whatever it was, really affect the GPA. So he was like, yeah, classes can be taught. But like, I saw everything that I wanted. He's like, you communicated well. You'd be surprised. And he said this, you'd be surprised how many people just can't communicate. You had leadership skills. You overcame adversity. So whether your technical ability is good or not, you can still get a pretty good job based off of your character traits, based off of, okay, what did you do in life? How did you, and that's why one of the best interview questions that people will get is, describe a time where you experienced adversity and what you did to overcome it. That is a critical skill, because if you're in industry, if you are crippled by falling short, that's a problem, because like, how are they going to know that you're going to be reliable to pick yourself back up and do better the next day, or like learn from it? So
yeah. See, it's like, so I don't know, I'll probably cut this little segment on the podcast. I don't know, but it's like back when I lost my dad, whatever, I did not take a single day off work. I went into work. I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. We're just gonna keep shit talking each other because we're blue collar workers. It's like, that's how we get through the day, anyways. I'm like, hey, just shit talk me more than usual. I don't care. I didn't take a single day off. I didn't really cry in front of anybody because it was just like, what's there to cry about? It's done. You can't, crying about something is not going to fix anything. So it's like why I don't, it's like, what's the point? I understand that's people's like emotional outlet, but for me, it's like, you don't get anything out of it. So it's like, once it happened, it happened. It's like, that's it. If you regret anything in the past, you're only preventing your full effort in a successful future, whether it be now, the future, or at least a successful present. Let's reword it to that. If you are not focusing on exactly what you're doing right now, then you cannot expect a perfect output, or at least what could be a perfect output. If you're putting your full force effort into what you are currently doing with your life, you can't be mad with the results, because at least you can say, I did everything I possibly could. I did not waste an hour watching TikTok like I probably did this morning. Will not confirm or deny. But it's like, you have to realize at the end of the day what matters to you and what doesn't matter. Like, you can't just sit and rely on your feelings to get better or whatever. Like you said, going through depression, it's like at the end of the day, you have to realize what works for you. It's like, for me, it's like, I wouldn't say I have depression because I haven't been clinically diagnosed, because it's like, I don't want to know. It's like, my thing is like, I'll just keep fighting. I'll just keep walking through the mud, dude. I don't care. I'll be like, I'll be knee deep. But I'm like, at the end of the day, what for me works, it used to be, writing lyrics or playing guitar a lot and coming up with my own material. But now it's like, I know that I need to be successful. So the more, like I said, back when I lost my dad, I was clocking, what was it, 5 10s? Then sometimes I come in on the weekend.
Whoa.
And this is all like blue collar stuff, but it's like, I was happy with my output. So are my employers. Obviously, they're like, this guy's always just cranking shit out. I'll take his mom too.
God, holy crap.
we'll get 6 10s out of him then. But
See, this is what engineers and just us depressed people just think about. It's just like, we make those dark jokes. But it's
yeah, but
hilarious.
it's at the end. No, I really do love my mom. I love my mom more than she's the main reason why I got through college, dude. Because like, I was like, fuck, dude, I don't want to be here. But I knew if I did that, she'd be like, done. Just knock me. I'd be like, man. But like, no, dude, that was some of the best work I ever did. Like, dude, I'd pop in headphones. I mean, so basically what I did was, I don't know if you know, like a lot of deck parts or whatever for like decks and stuff, was like, you have these posts that connect the rails and stuff.
Yeah.
And what I'd do is I would put them, make sure the paint finish is fine, because we powder painted them, and then put them in a box, put the paper in there, whatever, then put shims, make sure, contractors can level them and all that good stuff, and added slip instructions, whatever. I was cranking out like 300, 400 posts a day. And this was like 5 or 6 pallets of them. And people, like, the other people there can only get like 150 to 200, but I had like such a perfect system now. I was doing like, they called me, they're like, he's the postmaster, man. I'm like, yeah, I'm delivering them.
As an individual who has family members who work in the postal service, I find that hilarious, just because, like, I don't know. It's just funny to me because I'm a big supporter of the postal service society. Proceed.
Oh yeah, but it's like, it's my thing is like, I guess when presented the question, what do you do to overcome adversity? It's like, knows the grindstone, because you can't fix anything in the past, so try and make the future better going forward. You gotta, whatever that dopamine hit, the biggest dopamine hit you can take going forward, that's, as long as it's legal, just make sure you are taking care of, well, the thing is, I will die on this hill, even though I try to be an exploiter of the, what is it? The dopamine addiction economy. There we go. That's the word I was looking for. But that's what YouTube Shorts, TikTok, Instagram Reels are all doing. They're trying to exploit the dopamine addiction economy. So it's like, and I am a very big, well, I'm not going to victimize myself because I do it to myself, but it's like, I can't even like sit down and watch a movie anymore, because I'm like, I got to like be on my phone or whatever doing it, because I just can't pay attention to like 30, 40, 50 minutes of a plot before any action happens. Someone's like playing like Bloons Tower Defense or Clash of Clans on my phone while I'm watching the movie, and I'm missing like 30% of the movie because I'm playing a game on my phone or whatever. And I'm like, oh, it's fine, I'm picking up everything anyways. But it's like, do I really? No, you don't. You don't pick up on everything. But at the end of the day, I don't know. Is that just because I'm like, oh, dopamine hit, dopamine hit, dopamine hit? And it's like, I don't know. Like, why do you want that? Are we trying to make a multitasking society, or what are we trying to make here?
Essentially, yes, because that produces, in the corporate world, in the industry world, manufacturing specifically, you want more output. So you want to be able to, you want to be able to provide, and it sucks. It really does suck that this is the case. I work in manufacturing, but sometimes I actually do hate the manufacturing mindset of just like, well, we just need to, get as much product out there, quality product out there, all this sort of stuff. And we need to find cost savings, because it's all about cost savings. I come from a blue collar background. I work a white collar job now, but I have that blue collar mindset. I'm definitely one of those people. Like, I do not want AI technology to replace laborers. I do not want machines to replace laborers, because you still need those skilled as much people hate to admit it, blue collar workers are skilled workers. They are absolutely skilled workers. If you don't think they're skilled workers, to go try and do what they're doing. Because
Yeah.
because I did a factory simulation with my job on Thursday, and there's a reason I'm an engineer and not a laborer, because I cannot work the product as quickly, efficiently, or specifically as they can. We were just building gearbox assemblies. It's unclassified. They're not related to whatever we manufacture. We were just building those stuff, and I'm just like, I'm struggling to like, how am I supposed to get this gear assembly into here? And like, I finished 15 minutes later than like, so we had 4 hours to complete a whole assembly, 8 to 12. Granted, we started at like 8:10, 8:15, but like I finished at like 12:15, 12:20, and like I was the last one there, and I was the last one there, not because I sucked, but it was just everybody else around me was also pretty good, and that actually sounds really like narcissistic. Like, I'm not terrible, just everybody else around me is better. No, that wasn't the case. I actually didn't suck, but I wasn't great. I can't do this assembly to the exact instructions in a timely manner as other people can. Like, that is go try, like anybody go try something that a laborer does, and
It takes years of work.
Try doing it as efficiently and as quickly as they can do it. I guarantee you that if you do not have prior experience, like just say like, I would say, okay, if you had one of your coworkers be like, oh, try doing this. Of course they're going to be able to do it because they work the same job. Yeah. It's different though. Like if you're like an engineer or an IT specialist or a manager, go out to the shop floor and actually see if you can do it. Like actually see if you can do it. Granted, some of the time's wasted on, just normal stuff, normal like workplace stuff that you're just distracted. Like some people will be browsing Amazon. That happens and everything. But I don't want a machine to just crank out, pump out product all the time. I want an actual person inspecting the product. I want an actual person building it. I want like actual hands on the product. So what? That it like, okay, the error rate may go higher. So what? We're actually providing somebody a way to live. We're providing them a living. Sometimes they have a family to take care of. Give them an outlet to do something. When we just use machines to replace laborers, and this is just an assumption. This is just a theory. It's not a confirmed theory, but laborers are less educated, and laborers also have the tendency of being at-risk individuals, whether it be alcoholism, DUIs. Like I know a bunch of, and I'll name drop them because I'll never work for them. John Deere. I know a bunch of laborers within John Deere. It's actually become a running joke in the Quad Cities, where it's like, oh, nothing runs. So I've had this. It's a terrible thing to do, but I've had this idea of making a meme. So John Deere's motto is "Nothing runs like a deer." I've thought about making a meme with all the mugshots of all the people with DUIs in the Quad Cities locations at John Deere, and it says "Nothing runs like a deer," because like all those people have DUIs. It's not a joke to make fun of, though, because that's why it's pretty terrible. But laborers, when you give laborers work, you give them an opportunity to do something with their life. You give them an opportunity to fix their life. Same thing with me. I was able to fix my life because if I didn't fix my life, who knows where I would have gone. I was able to fix my life having that blue collar mindset and just having opportunities. When you replace workers with machines, you're removing that potential opportunity for them to be better, to fix their life, to become a better version of themselves. You know how I feel. I feel about becoming a better version of yourself. So I fully support. I'm 100% pro-union. I'm actually one of those people that's just like, yeah, negotiations, give them whatever we want. Give them whatever they want. Just, we need them. This is why I will never be a manager, because I'm a pro blue collar mindset manager. I could be a manager, but I would definitely be that manager who would be out on the floor helping people out and not just being like, well, just do this. Email me if you have questions. I'm going back to the office. Because you have those types of people if you work.
Yeah,
you probably experienced it yourself.
Yeah, so it's like working with managers and stuff that back when, or like when the company I used to work for was smaller, that was definitely a very real thing. Like, I'd be working right across, just like this, from the manager, and we'd just be talking about whatever. Just using the drill, just screwing parts together and stuff. That was fun. But then as the company grew, it became more, okay, well, he has to go work on this or whatever. But he's still doing the physical labor as well, which was really cool. But I feel so bad. I gotta use the bathroom so bad right now. We're gonna take a quick little pause. I can cut this out. If the freaking codec doesn't give me a fucking error again.
That'd be really funny if it.
I know. I'll be right back. Maybe.
If this doesn't get cut out, what ended up happening is that he could not open the door. He was pulling, not pushing. But anyway, if this doesn't get cut out, today's sponsor is not an actual sponsor, but I'm going to use it as an ad read. Members Mark water, only exclusive at Sam's Club. You can get a 48 pack for just under $3. Buy now today at your local Sam's Club. Required membership. So, yeah. I don't know how else to do this. I don't see. This is the reason. So I'm just saying, if this doesn't get cut out, if this can't be cut out, I'm just gonna try and fill the time as much as possible. There's a reason why I just dropped the lid there. There's a reason why I am terrible at like talking by myself and like because like trying to imagine an imaginary audience is hard. This is why Ryan would be helpful for all this stuff. So it's just a weird thing, and that's why I could never be an influencer. I could never be an influencer because, like, when you're an influencer, like one of those TikTokers, you have to basically, like, right now, it just feels weird for me to be just talking into a camera. It's just weird for me to do that. I'd rather be talking to a physical person. This is why I will never be an influencer, because influencers are good at making that disconnect. Like, the camera is not the camera. The camera is a person. The camera is still a camera to me. So that's why it's like, I don't know how to, I just feel weird. And whenever, just doing recording videos in general, especially in public, it's weird because like, I'm just looking at it from the third person perspective. Like, third person perspective, you look like a dumbass. Like, if you've ever seen people recording TikToks, like just from the third person view or like behind the scenes, it looks dumb as hell. Like, you see somebody in your local Walmart just with a tripod and their phone doing like, whatever these little dances are or whatever. I sound like a fucking boomer saying that, but maybe I am. I'm just disconnected from current reality because I live in my own. At least I try to live in the smarter reality. I'm just waiting for Ryan to get back. I'm assuming he had to go pee because we were drinking a bunch of water. Try to make sure we're hydrated here. Also, again, this is only if it doesn't get cut out. We can't cut this out. We are recording this. Oh, thank goodness he's back. I'm trying to fill the time here. Just in case it can't get cut out.
Okay, sweet, dude. What a lifesaver. Yeah, before the podcast, I was telling Jason that today's the 15th. Okay, so the podcast would be out right now. It's totally unedited because I was having codec errors and I was so frustrated yesterday. I was working on it like 5-6 hours. I'm just like, please, man, just give me something to work with here. And
that reminds me of when I used to edit videos for some projects that I was working on. Just having the one. Well, I used to do like videos of myself playing music back in like 2012, and I'm working on a 2012 HP Envy laptop, and like in Windows, Windows Movie Maker, and then trying to render that. It's like, oh wow, this is 2012 technology. I don't have a high-end PC. It's just a laptop with an APU, no graphics driver, nothing like that, and just like I think 8 gigs of DDR3 RAM. That took hours to render, and then like if you just make a mistake, or like sometimes Windows Live Movie Maker, which is a garbage software, when you try to undo, it just loses it. So I feel that pain. I remember that pain. I hated it. I use Kdenlive. It's an open source software that is very, very good at video editing. I would love to use Premiere. I would love Adobe if Adobe wasn't like, hey, fuck you, give me money. Kind of thing.
Yeah, I just paid into it. I'm like, dude, it's state of the art. I'm like, whatever.
And that's why I feel about Pro Tools. Have you heard of Pro Tools?
Yep.
So I used to use and that's another thing. College taught me how to use Pro Tools. I took a bunch of classes here at the university that helped me. Like, I may not be a master of one, but I'm like, I am
You
flexible.
can choose what you want to be the
I-
master of now.
I can actually, yeah, I had the flexibility to do a lot of different things. And I wanted to make sure that I had the flexibility to do a lot of things because, like, sure, if I'm a master in one thing, if I'm presented with a different issue, like, you become what Dr. Monty Mina says, dog on side of road. Confused, lost, don't know how to get out of there. That's how he described some of the students, too, because they were so bad. Really, COVID really did that. COVID affected the students so much that they're just like, they can't problem solve. But we already talked
Yeah,
about
no, I had a previous guest. It was I don't know if you saw the episode of Mitch and Hayden, but at Mitch's high school when COVID hit, his grade could only go up; it couldn't go down. So he's like, well, I guess I'm done with the semester early. And I'm like, that's cool. And while that works for Mitch because he is probably one of the most hardworking people I've ever met in my life, he's taking courses and he's teaching himself how to code in like C# because he wants to make a game. Him and Hayden are both making their own game. I've seen him get multiplayer working in a game on his entire own that he made by himself. I'm like, and this was back when he was saying like 227, 228.
Wow.
So he was way ahead of the times there, and he would basically, we joked him like, you should have started a Twitch channel and just seen, because the projects they give out in 227 and 220 is just like basic programming assignments. But he's like, I could have just started a Twitch channel for speedrunning them. Because he would be like, oh, new assignment drops. And he'd like, get it done that night. And then 2 weeks later, he'd have people messaging like, hey, Mitch, can you know this?
on Piazza.
No, it was on Discord. We had class Discord. I think that, I don't know how it worked. I think people were just friends in the class previously. And somehow just the trickle down effect worked and everyone got in a Discord or whatever. So then I think it's Zapchat group chat as well. It was just like students find ways to collaborate and stuff. Not that it may always be the most ethical collaboration, but I mean, at the end of the day, you're just going to get that in college. Not that I won't throw anybody under the bus. I know some people who have gotten nailed for academic dishonesty. I haven't, but I've seen it happen I can count, well, almost on two hands, the people that have gotten nailed, which is sad because it's like there's a right way to go about things and a wrong. It honestly takes a lot to get nailed for academic dishonesty. They're pretty lenient. But my favorite thing, Dr. Jones, he's like, if you just write down who you collaborated with, I don't care. But if the answer's wrong, then we know you guys just traded answers. So,
And that's what I love about Dr. Jones. So Dr. Jones, for anybody that hasn't watched it or knows anything about it, he teaches 288. 288, which is the embedded systems iRobot course. You basically reprogram an iRobot Roomba to do whatever you want it to do. That's non-lethal. So 288 was one of my favorite classes, and I had heard from other people who used to be in software engineering or whatever, used to be in the department, had taken 288. They're like, yeah, I don't really like Dr. Jones. I don't think he's that good of a professor. When I had it with him, they're like, I thought he's an amazing professor because he gives you so much information to be successful, and he's like, he has empathy. He like you said, he gives it like he's straight to the point about things. He's blunt. Like I asked him one time, it can be hard to do small talk with him too because of that whole straight to the point mindset. Because I asked him like, oh, is that a new computer? He's like, yep.
yeah, I love him because even though on my podcast, I have a clip on my channel if anyone wants to go see it. I think it's called like Growing Concerns with Technology or something like that. But Keeping Tech Simple, that's what it's called. And even though he has a flip phone still. And you rarely see that unless like some guy is a construction worker. Very rarely will you see a person who works with technology on a day-to-day basis still have a flip phone just because it's like, sure, I don't know really what his deal is at the end of the day, but he's like, but I understand where he's coming from. He's like, I like making myself think and not just be given everything to me. I like having that challenge of trying to figure out how can I get that hit. Well, his dopamine hit, this is my psychoanalysis, even though I'm not a psychology major by any means or a psychiatrist. But I think he does it because he's like, I get gratification out of making myself think and work for something that I want. That's how I feel his brain is programmed. And I get it. It's like, that's kind of how my brain works too. Cause it's like, I like figuring stuff out, like playing Minecraft. Like if I made a crazy redstone thing, I'd be like, I don't know how I did it, but it works. It's like, but having those challenging things, like I referred to earlier, this is why I'm an engineer. Cause it's like, as much as I might be smacking my head against my keyboard, just so frustrated on debugging something, when it works, and it is the most beautiful feeling ever.
And I'll be honest with you, that's why I actually miss school. I 2016 South would have. I actually remember I was at lunch one time in 2017. I was making a whole big like hissy fit about like, oh, college sucks. Like I can just learn everything I want on YouTube. Now I'm like, college is amazing. Like, and I do want to go back to school. I would love to go back to school because I miss that challenge. I miss that like not just the challenge, but the ability to just learn more, and not just learn more, but learn more in an intense way. Like, yeah, you can pace yourself in online classes. You can pace yourself on like University of Phoenix or whatever, GCU.edu, whatever those like online courses that are, and that fits some people. So like my sister-in-law, like she had to take online classes at an online university in New York. I'm not going to give her crap for that because that's what she had to do. She had to do what she had to do at the time because she was at the age where, and she had a job, like full-time school, like in traditional school doesn't work. I'm not going to rag on people for that. But I prefer to be on campus and learning because you can have all that online class and everything that you can work at your own pace. Working at your own pace is good to an extent, but that also allows you to be complacent. You have to be careful about that because then you just be like COVID. I mean, how many lectures did you watch from your bed? How many times did you just like, all right, I'm going to log into my computer. Time for me to go back to sleep. Or like, oh, I get those lecture videos I can watch. I'll watch them tomorrow. And then tomorrow comes, oh, I got time. I'll do it the next day. The next day comes, let's do it tomorrow morning. And then the morning comes, just, the afternoon. The afternoon comes, and then the day before or the morning of the class. Yeah, I'll just 3x this, watch everything. So it allows you the flexibility, but I prefer to be in that like higher, fast-paced, very challenging. Because for me, and that's not for everybody, but I've talked with other engineers about this. They enjoy that aspect of high stress. They enjoy that aspect of high stress because it's how you learn the most. There's this good circle that I learned about, this learning circle of all. It's really weird that I learned this in this class, but it was human sexuality, HD 276 here. Again, like I said, I took a bunch of different classes. I learned a lot while I was here. The only thing I didn't take was a psychology course. And oddly enough,
You should sometime.
and oddly enough, yeah. So I claim this. I have never taken a psychology course in my entire life. Not in high school, not in college. But so many people come to me asking me about like psychological questions or like, and it's a fascinating topic. And again, it just goes back to that whole like, you're feeling down, you're depressed or like that. Okay, I'm not gonna rag on you for getting depressed. Why would I? Why would I I'm not gonna be like somebody else who's been on the podcast before. You're depressed, just don't be depressed. I think you know exactly who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people that's just like, make an effort. If you're making an effort, like I can't be mad at you. Nobody should be mad at you if you're making an effort to actually be better. You're trying. And the same thing with like college. If you're trying in college, like if I were a professor, and that's actually just a lot of professors here in the department, if they see that you are trying in their class, you cannot fail. So like me, wasn't the best student, was probably like a C average student, C plus, but I mean I passed because I was trying. Like I was actually making an effort to do stuff in class. Was that all the time? Was I trying all the time? Hell no. No, I wasn't trying all the time. But I was trying. And it's also, and that's just an important skill to have, is just you got to keep on trying. You just have to keep on trying anything. And like you said, with you sending out emails and messages and stuff like that for people on the podcast, as much as it like may get you down that, okay, we're getting declined, and same thing with like people applying to jobs. There's this phenomenon. I don't know if it's a legitimate phenomenon, but I've heard that there's like the like the depressing factor of getting declined and rejected all the time if you're applying for jobs. Like it's a normal feeling to have. Like, oh, that sucks, but also keep moving. Like keep moving, keep trying. Like don't let that discourage you. Same thing with your podcast. Like you said, like you've reached out to so many people, you get like 50%. Of that 50%, you get 25% of that. But that hasn't stopped you from trying. So I mean, why that should be respectable. People should respect that. Not people, and people just don't respect the people care more about results than the actual process.
Yes, this is a big thing, I think. So like my thing is like at first this podcast, I've said this so many times. It was just been a drunk thought one night. I'm like, I'm gonna do a podcast. Look at this.
Mine was too.
This is gonna be like episode. I think. Hold on, let me think about this. I think it's gonna be episode number 24.
Dang, I thought it was gonna be 69.
No, dude, if I had that many episodes, that'd be. If I did it actually how I wanted to once a week, I don't even know. I think we'd be in the 30s or 40s though. I think because I started late July of 2022. But I mean, sometimes, like I said, in one of my older episodes, like primarily I'm a college student. Primarily I'm trying to get a job. This is my senior year. Fortunately, I lined up a job. But like I said earlier, I'm really good at networking with people. Like I have 2 friends who own their own businesses. I'm friends with somebody who or one of those guys who owns his businesses has a friend who has sat down and played poker and had wine with Peter Thiel, one of the biggest capital investors in the United States that helped found and fund the origin of Facebook. So it's like, I'm not to name drop a lot of things, but it's like, I'm also trying to be somebody as impressive as what my friends do, right? It's like, I'm making big connections. I'm just trying to get my foot in the door in a lot of places where I can take my life, whatever. And though I might be a goofball a lot of the time, or I might not take anything seriously like one of our other mutual friends does, but at the end of the day, if there's one thing I'm good at, it's networking with people, talking to people. Even though this is so weird, dude, when I was a kid, I wouldn't talk to anybody. I'd be like the kid that just sits in the corner of the classroom just playing on my phone or reading a book or whatever, or doodling, whatever. But now it's like I've come out of my shell, and going back to like 6th grade, where I remember my English teacher was like, "Oh, he's finally coming out of shell just a little bit. Where this is awesome." If she saw me now, I just wonder what she thinks. Like, dude, what the fuck happened? Like, at what point was it like this? It's like as a kid, you don't know what your outcome's gonna be. It's like every kid's like, I want to do this, I want to do that. So it's like I like having guests on here. It's like I like looking back, like what their childhood was like or whatever. It's like I think it'd been cool to like figure out. We're like, Dr. Jones, what was your childhood like? Like what were you doing in your free time? Because I think that's a very interesting question. Because what I did, I just played video games all the time. That's all I did ever since I was like 3 or 4. Just played video games, and now it's like I'm trying to break away from that, and because I want to do my app idea, I want to do this, I want to do drone photography, I want to do all these sort of things where it's just like I don't know, you can call it the capitalist hustle or whatever, but I think just being an impressive person, that's kind of like what drives me to keep moving in life. Because like, sure, a lot of things are just slap you in the face, like, oh, are you depressed yet? Are you gonna give up? You gonna be a big little baby? It's like, no, I'm not gonna be a big little baby. I'm just gonna keep doing what I do. It keeps what makes me happy. Because no matter how many road bumps are in life, you can't just be like, oh, that one wrecked the car. Your mind is your car, okay? Your mind is telling you, am I going to get up today? Am I going to go to work? Am I going to do this? Am I going to do that? Am I going to work out? Am I going to tell my girlfriend or whatever significant other that I love her? No, because I don't have one. But
I think same boat, dude. Same boat.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, you have to figure out what keeps pushing you forward. And yeah, because your podcast was about mental health, wasn't it? Do you want to touch on that?
Yeah. So I used to run a podcast. I no longer do. The biggest reason I don't do it anymore is time. Time and honestly, kind of lost the heart for it too. But anyway, in 2020, so this would have been in October 2020. But prior to 2020, I had always had the mindset, and I've always enjoyed learning about people. And so even when I was in high school, I thought about it, but I never did it. I wanted to talk to other students and like learn about your story, learn about how how did you get involved in orchestra? Not just students, but also talking about teachers too. I've thought about that. I wanted to learn more about people and like almost like a because I'm one of my favorite movie genres, as boring as it is, documentaries. I love documentaries.
I love them too.
I love
Yeah,
documentaries.
yeah.
And so when 2020 happened, there was this thing that not everybody may know about, but it was called COVID-19. That happened in 2020, and that shut everything down. And um, it got to a point where I one of my other friends that I had been in school with, we used to go to volleyball games together. That was my sophomore year, 2017, and COVID happened, kind of got disconnected and stuff, and I got busy with my life. He reached out one time because, and this is the reason it all came out was I was sitting at my desk in an October day, I think it was in 2020, and I made a tweet, and this tweet, I don't remember the exact quotes, but it was like, "Holy crap! I am just now coming down from an anxiety attack." I don't know if I have anxiety. Never been clinically diagnosed, so I don't. But I believe I do have anxiety. But I was just like, "Holy crap!" Because I was like, I had seen something, and like my mind just started racing to the point where, and I literally believe that this was a genuine anxiety attack because I was winded afterwards. I was out of breath. I was frozen. I was freaking out. Could not process anything. Just like something triggered me to have an anxiety attack, and I was so scared. I actually thought about going to the hospital that day because I'm like, holy crap, like what is wrong? What is going on? Because I'd never experienced anything like that. Whereas I've never experienced something that debilitating. Hopefully the camera will catch this, but like I remember going to my kitchen and like going up to the cabinet and just being like just trying to recuperate and like trying to catch myself, catch my breath, because I'm like, my God, I did nothing physical, but I feel like I just ran a 5K directly after going to the gym and climbing a rock wall. And so I tweeted about that. I was like, holy crap, I just came down from an anxiety attack. This is back when I was like more active on Twitter. And then my friend reached out to me. He's like, yo, like we were talking, like he's like, can I call you? He called me like later on that night. This happened like 2 a.m, and he was drunk. I was not, because at the time I was sober. So I actually had been I had gone through this period of sobriety because I needed to fix myself. I didn't have an alcohol dependence. I wouldn't say I had an alcohol dependence. I may have had mild alcoholism. It was more of like anytime anything went wrong, my first reaction was to go get a drink, or oh man, this really sucks. I'm not having a good time. I want to have a drink right now. Maybe that is alcoholism.
Saying, there's Jack for that.
Yeah. Maybe that is alcoholism, but I did struggle with that. Again, this goes back to tying into like I had to fix myself. Like after I curbed all that stuff, I was sober for, I don't know, 9 months maybe. I can't remember exactly how long, but like I purposely stopped drinking, not because like, it was really fascinating too, because my friend at the time, he was struggling with alcoholism too, and so he wanted to know how I did it. How did I get sober? And technically, I'm not sober anymore because I've had a drink, but in some ways, I still think that I got sober because I don't drink. Whenever I drink, it's not like oh God, I'm having a terrible time. Oh, I got reminded of my ex or whatever like that. I'm just gonna have a drink or whatever like that. No, it's like whenever I drink, it's like, I'll have like one, and it's just like a beer, just because I'll have a beer at dinner, I'll have a beer with friends. It's like healthier. I'm not engaging in unhealthy habits like I was before. So that's why I still kind of somewhat think I'm sober, even though technically, like if you were to go to like AA or something like that, they're not going to give me a 1-year coin or a 5-year coin because I technically have had a drink. But I've been able to manage that. I've been able to manage the behaviors behind drinking. Anyway,
Yeah, it's to me, alcoholism it's a loosely defined term. Okay, like my thing is like I don't see like if people like drinking, people like drinking. It's fun. It's social lubricant, really. So it's like when I'm hanging out with friends or talking to people or even on a Discord call, I'll crack a beer. But it's like back when I lost my dad, I did nothing. I didn't do anything to hide those feelings. It was all like healthy outputs of like writing lyrics or playing guitar, whatever. or go playing disc golf. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything to associate fun things with negative. So it's like my thing was, as long as you're not covering up negative things in your life with a lot of fun things, sometimes you just got to be, well, take this loosely. This is not an entirely serious thing, but just don't be a bitch and just like go head on at it, man. It's like sometimes you have to get that emotional hardness in your life, and you will meet a lot of people who, can do this, or you'll meet a lot of people who can't. But it's like, having society to kind of help encourage behavior, healthy behavior with dealing with negative side or negative mental thoughts, whatever, having friends in your circle that do support what you're going through and be like, hey, let's go do this, is like, back when I did lose my dad, my buddy's like, hey, you want to go disc golfing, whatever? I'm like, yeah, sure. He's my boss. I was disc golfing with my boss, and he's one of my best friends to this day. Is like, he knew how to help me get through the dark time, probably the darkest time of my life this far. And I was laughing so hard I was crying. I'm like, I'm not crying because I'm sad. I'm crying because I was just like laughing, because he used to just tell me all sorts of like, we're blue collar workers. We say fuck up shit all the time. We were just being big old goofballs out there. But it's like having the right circle of friends can get you through hellish waters. Like, have you seen The Wolf of Wall Street?
I have seen the Wolf of Wall Street.
You know how they're like navigating the freaking storm and the yacht, and they're coming down the glass breaks. It felt like we were in that situation, but we're like, fuck it, dude. We're having the time of our lives. But it's like, to have such a strong group of friends is so dire in your life. It's like, figure out who you vibe with, figure out who's gonna make you laugh so hard you think you need to go to the hospital because your kidneys hurt from laughing so hard. That's the people you need in your life. But then you also want people that you need to take seriously to help push you in your life. It's like, I think the best quote of all time for kind of like organizing your social circle, 33% of your time needs to be spent with people younger than you. So you put on good knowledge and good, just habits for people who, don't have stuff developed or may not have people in their lives like that yet. 33% of your time needs to be having fun with friends, and 33% of your time needs to be spent with people who are older and wiser than you so you can adopt better habits. And I like this. I don't practice it, but I don't like it.
Well, I'm somewhat, I don't know how significantly older I am than you, but I do hang out a lot with and I wouldn't say hang out a lot, but I communicate a lot with people younger than me. Don't worry, that's not a bad thing. I'm not talking to like 12-year-olds or anything. I'm like more like college age kids. I'm still somewhat college age, but I'm in like my mid-20s now. I'm going to be in my mid-20s this year.
I'm going to guess 24.
I'm 24 right now. I will be 25 this year. So, and I talk regularly right now with a 19-year-old TA for 281, and it's all about getting to learn about each other. And I'm gonna go back to with and I've talked with people older than me too. I think I just covered. Oh, sorry, you're not talking. I would have like covered the camera here. I've talked with a variety of ages. I talk with people that are older than me. I talk with people that are significantly older than me. Like, I've been told by 40-year-old woman that this is back when I was 18. Like, you're a 40-year-old trapped in an 18-year-old's body, because I had that emotional maturity. Did I have the actual maturity? No, hell no. I had a lot to learn, and so I can vibe with a lot of different people, and I purposely spread out that range because you get knowledge, different pieces of knowledge from different groups of people, and that's why diversity is important. Not just like age diversity, but like racial diversity, ethnic diversity, socioeconomic diversity too. Like, all that's really important because it's all about being able to learn, and that's why I'm really understanding, and that's why I can attribute a lot of my understanding, a lot of my knowledge is really it comes from talking with people. The podcast helped with that too. The podcast, so we talked with the reason why we started the podcast was, one, my friend wanted to reconnect because of COVID and stuff like that. Two, he wanted to get my mind off of possibly another anxiety attack. Three, he was also struggling with his own issues, so it was a way for us to distract, but also talk about it too. Talk about mental health in a way. So we did have a mental health podcast, and it was almost like a health podcast. It was a variety podcast. It was definitely a variety podcast. There was no set topic that would be discussed, but we'd had guests on. So like I remember those videos are still up on YouTube. Hopefully it doesn't affect my security clearance, but those videos are still up on YouTube. And they're long. They're very long episodes, and that's why I had to stop doing it, because I was doing all the back end stuff, the production side. So I was the one who was recording it. I was the one who was producing all the audio, mixing all the audio, post production, uploading it up to YouTube, trimming the audio to upload it to Spotify and like all the other podcast platforms. So I did all the back end production side. And when we started at 9:00, because 9:00 on Thursdays were the best time, 9:30 I think were the best times to do it on Thursdays. And when you're going for like 3 hours, that's like 12. All right, now I gotta bounce down the file from Twitch and get that downloaded, make sure that gets rendered, snip all the stuff that I need to snip, and then upload that. By that time, it's like 3 a.m. So like it was just mentally and physically taxing on me, because I had class at 8:45 the next morning. And then I had class at 8:45 the next morning, followed by a lab that was 2 to 5 p.m. And I was president of IEEE at the time, so there was that 8:45 to 9 something time period where I was in class. Then I would help get set up for pizza sales, because we'd sell pizza for fundraising. So I was doing so much to the point where I had to stop doing it. But so that's like the whole story of the podcast and how it all went out. But the gems in there are some pretty good gems in there. We had a guy talk about we had a guest, one of my favorite people that I've ever met. I think he lives in California. He's a sports not psychologist. He has a background in physical therapy, but he's like physical therapy for an esports team. Cloud9.
Really?
Yeah, Cloud9.
Dude, that's
Yeah.
sick.
So I will name drop him, Dr. Jordan Tsai. He's an excellent individual, had a lot of knowledge to share about like the physical aspects, things that you don't even think about, like your natural wrist position, why like these certain mats are bad, why these certain chairs are bad for you to sit in, like why you should go for an office chair over like a gaming chair for these certain things. A lot of different, like make sure that when you have your armrest, you want to make sure that your arms are level and like resting, your elbows are resting, because you don't want to be like super extended. You don't want to be far. It's like he talked about all that stuff to like help out your physical health in gaming or just in an office sense. He also talked about his background too, like how he became a physical therapist, how he wanted to do all this stuff, because he hated the 9 to 5 job. Like he tried it. He started his own business. He started his own firm. Now he works for an esports team. So there's that. We've had a license, not at the time, but now licensed, I believe, physical therapist, or not physical, but therapist. My fault. A therapist, licensed therapist, talking about mental health. That was a really fun episode too. I didn't really cover the topics. I didn't come up with the topics. That was my co-host, because he was the one with the ideas. He was the one managing social media. But I enjoyed talking about mental health because it was something that was evident at the time, and hopefully still evident now, that there was a mental health crisis going on. And as somebody who went through my own mental health crisis and figured it out, I thought it was just really, really important to talk about, and so it would help other people, because not everybody has those things where like you can talk about mental health. Not everybody has those outlets. Not everybody can learn. Not everybody, like I didn't learn mental health through psychology courses. No, I learned mental health through going to therapy. I learned mental health by talking to other people knowledgeable in mental health, like other people that have degrees in psychology, and just experience it and talking with other individuals who are also going through some stuff. So that was what I had learned about it. And I actually kind of wanted that podcast to be that way. Granted, it wasn't just like a serious podcast. We were just goofballs in general. Like I've had an Iowa State football player on there before too. He's really cool. He was actually drafted in the NFL, or not drafted. He signed with the NFL. Yeah.
Brock Purdy?
No, I actually.
Oh, dude, that would have been sick.
No, it wasn't Brock Purdy. It was Dylan Sainer. He was a tight end Fiesta Bowl champion. He got not drafted, but he got signed by the Saints, New Orleans Saints. And he was so cool. Like he actually sent me a jersey. So pretty cool people. Like it's just get that outlet of being able to talk with people. So that was the whole podcast thing. I got asked to restart it, but I declined this restart it mostly because of time, the effort, and also given my life situation right now, I can't be doing it on a weekly basis. Whether it just be again related to my job or just life in general. It's just I don't have that bandwidth to do it anymore. Like I could do this, like I could do it because it's just like a one-time thing. I could be a guest, but I can't do co-hosting anymore.
Yeah. So I guess wrapping up now, that as we're running 5 minutes over, what would you give for advice for life? Let's go with that. That's gonna be my ending question every time, though.
Life advice. I think I think I have to go back to what I said it before. Life advice: keep pushing on. Do be the better version of yourself than you were before, and have that group of people. And I will end it off. I wanted to say this, but I completely forgot to say it until now. So that during the pandemic, and multiple times, my high school friends who I'm still close with now. I don't tell them enough how much I appreciate them. I really should, but it's just I'm shy about it. They on multiple occasions they have. This is gonna sound cheesy as fuck, but they have saved my life. So they were there for me in 2016 when I was going through a really rough period of time. Like I remember during Thanksgiving break, they were. My God, I'm shaking talking about this. They showed up to my door. They showed up to my door, and like their families like baked like a Jello thing for me, and I remember where I was too. Sorry if I get emotional here. I remember where I was. I was in the attic of my parents' house, like trying to sleep, but then like I got a phone call like saying like, hey, you should come down here, and like just them showing up for me there for that too on numerous. So there was that time. There was one time where they showed up to my house when I had struggled with. I don't really want to say that because it's a really sensitive topic, but they've wanted to visit me in hospitals before, and also during the pandemic they really helped me out because the pandemic threw a whole loop in my life because it destroyed my plans for everything that I had. Like I purposely dropped out to work on something. Now I can't work on it. What do I do now? I quit my job and all this other stuff. And they honestly helped me from self-destruction by playing GTA with me. We were playing GTA in Modern Warfare 2019 during the pandemic, and like that's something that unless I have a severe brain injury, like I will never forget that because they were able to. My high school friends and my dad had said like you have really good friends. He told me that back in 2016 when they showed up at my door with those gifts. You got to find friends like those. You got to find friends like that will be there for you no matter what. That will always be there to help you and also want to have a good time with you. And it really sucks because I should really tell them this more often, but I'm just one of those like people that's afraid to like tell them like how much I appreciate people. Mostly because people are gonna be like, "Bro, are you okay?" Because like that's not something I do.
Yeah.
But so find that group of friends that will be there for you to be life changing in a positive way, not negative way. You don't want people.
Yeah, find people to ruin your life.
Yeah. Find people that just like destroy you, destroy your job, go to your job and just spread some so you get canceled. That's the moral of the story. Not really. That's sarcasm. Don't take that out of context. Don't short that. Don't clip that. Short. So really, my whole thing with life is just continue to push yourself, to challenge yourself to be a better version of yourself, but also make sure to take a step back. Don't overload yourself too much because you need to be able to take a step back to the point where if you're at the border of self-destruction, you need to stop. Just breathe. Take a step back because I made that mistake of like I need to be I'm depressed. I'm just gonna keep distracting myself. I'm gonna do this, and this. It works for some people, but to me it was just pushing it off so long. So really, continuously improve your life. Find a group of people that are going to be there for you, that make a positive impact on you, and that help you learn not just technical skills but also life skills, personal skills. Again, just my biggest motto is be the better version of yourself than you were before. Continuously improve yourself. Don't strive for perfection. Continuously improve. Strive not for perfection, but to be a step towards perfection, but never perfect. I'm not saying like right before the step before perfection, don't just stop. No, I'm just saying always find ways to improve. Always find ways to get closer to perfection and move that perfection ceiling higher.
I think that's a good note to end on. Find the group of people that make you the best version you can be.